welcome back. So let me get everything set up, but I guarantee that I'm gonna cook you a nice breakfast, man. Like this is what it's about. It's 8:25 here in the AM, so yeah, it's a little late breakfast, right? But I'm gonna cook something up for you that's a special order. I got a special order from Fade Saga, right? Who asked me to cook up some Medusa with a side of breakdown, and I'm gonna give you a side of Athena and Poseidon and a little Zeus, like a little sampler of Zeus, to round this whole meal out, right? This entire cookout. Okay, so first of all, welcome back to my channel here, Nine World Chronicles. Sorry, a little thirsty to start. And so I'm here, and I'm back, and I'm breaking down some mythology, kind of as always, right? And I woke up and I got this message from Fade Saga, which is just an absolutely clever way of breaking out your name. I love that already. And I wanted to say, first of all, she asked me, or expressed she had some interest in seeing a Medusa video, and I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for this, because I'm always loaded to talk about Medusa, right? Like, usually I know what I'm going to talk about the day before, like usually the night before, I kind of already know what I'm going to talk about. So I had a whole topic like ready to go, and I saw this morning, and I had to do this. Not that I had to do it, I was compelled, right? I couldn't not do this when the opportunity to talk about Medusa comes up, because there's so many layers to this mythology that we just skip over. We really skip over a lot of the heart of this, like the whys and like what this stuff actually means, right? So there's three major subjects that I'm not going to be able to avoid on this. Obviously, I'm going to talk about Medusa, and I want to talk about Medusa as a person who existed even before Poseidon came in there, right? I want to talk about her prior to this, what she meant, like what she was. I want to talk about Athena, like what she actually represents, and like this is kind of where the big conflict is. It's not just coincidence that it was Poseidon. This is not a coincidence. This is symbolism at the highest level. They are telling you a story about what these forces mean. And it's beautifully done. It's beautifully done because you don't even think about it, right? These are children's stories about the cosmos, about the biggest dynamics that exist in creation, right? There really are. Even though I know it's odd that a story about SA is, children's story cosmologically, right? But it is, because they're telling us some big things, okay? So I'm going to lay out a couple of the big topics first, and then I'm going to start slicing these things down into its little components. So I'm going to make it's like make a big pot of gumbo, right? And I'm going to start serving you guys bowls, right? With the rice and everything, right? I'm in the South now, so this is what we doing. This is how we doing it, okay? So the biggest topic actually behind the entire Medusa story is about cosmic order. It's about two gods fighting it out. And let's remember what the two gods represent. The reason that Athena and Poseidon are often set aside from each other is because of what they represent. Now, Poseidon is water. He is primordial force. He is the most invasive thing ever. If you want to talk about who's a leader in invading spaces, go to your bathroom. It's water, right? Water gets everywhere. We give water praise every now and then. Like every now and then, we're like, oh yeah, water. It carved out the Grand Canyon. Yeah, and water does a lot of other stuff too. Like water is on this planet absolutely no joke. Water doesn't take a lot of L's. I don't know if you guys realize this, but water doesn't often lose, right? Because water is always going to come back. Like, yeah, I know we change the courses of rivers and stuff like that, but not that often. And over time, like those dams, whether made by beavers or made by mankind, like the Hoover Dam, which is an amazing thing that you need to see. I've seen the Hoover Dam. It's incredibly impressive feat of engineering, right? Like that's something that as an American, as just a human, seeing the Hoover Dam, right? It's impressive, right? Check it out, okay? But here's the thing. I tell you who's going to win at the end of it, and it ain't the dam, right? Water is always going to win. And you know what water typically does? It goes wherever it wants to go. I wish you would try to control some water. We have entire mythologies dedicated to controlling water. And you know what? It doesn't work out for us most of the time, right? When water shows up, like go into any room of your house, and if water has just asserted itself in that room, you're going to be like, oh, God damn it, right? I don't care if it's somebody knocked over a glass of water on your desk. I don't care if somebody left a water hose running in the backyard. I don't care if the sink overflowed in the kitchen, okay? Where that water is going, you got a problem now, because now it's going to get into everything. So water itself, the principle that Poseidon represents, he's the sea. It's not used to know, okay? It is not used to know, and it has a long memory. So we're going to start off with those two principles. That this is what Poseidon really represents. It's this ultimate force. And there's a lot of stories about fighting against the forces of water, right? The whole myth of Pele, if you go to like the Hawaiian myth Pele, is that she's trying to start islands, and her sister, who is the sea, is like, no, and just washes over everything. We can't build any land because you just wash over everything. And water has the capacity to stop civilization. It's a spark of life on the smallest levels, but on the grandest level, it has the ability to stop civilization if it chooses to. Okay, so this is who Poseidon is. Now, Athena, by the other side, is literally civilization. That's literally what Athena is. Athena is the thinking, political thinking, strategic thinking, military protection. This is Athena. She is the ultimate strategist. You know what she loves more than anything else is order. She wants everything to be lined up because that's how strategic thinkers work. You can't have civilization itself if you got a bunch of disorder going on around, right? So that's where these two got beef on a cosmic level, right? This is where, like, beef is not what Josh said to 50, okay? This is what beef is, cosmic level beef. So that's the background there. The background is that both of these two teams had just made it to the Athens finals. Like they had a tournament to see who was going to be the patron saint of Athens, patron god of Athens, which was popping. All the marketing rights were going to go through Athens. Everybody knew this. Everybody knew that Athens was like the deal, right? So after a couple of grueling series, Poseidon comes out of the Eastern Conference, and who comes out of the West is this new Medusa, this relatively younger, franchise called Medusa. She's representing the West, and they get into an epic 7-game battle for Athens. And who comes out on top? Athena. Athena comes out on top, right? Because she gifts them something, which is the olive, right? And this is crazy because I hate olives. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I love Greek mythology. I hate olives. I can't even I can't even go into a Greek restaurant. I'm telling you, that's how strongly I hate olives. Okay, this is not about me. Okay, this moment isn't about me. This is about Athens and what was going on in Athens. Okay, so what's going on here is that when she gave them the olive, they're like, yeah, that's it right there. Sealed the deal. That was the dagger, right? That was her dagger. That was her Jordan isolated at the top of the key against Brian Russell, and him just he pushed off. He did push off, by the way. MJ did push off. He pushes him off, and he sticks the dagger, and he just lets it hang there for a little bit. Okay, that's the ultimate cold-blooded pose of all time, right? And you don't have to say that, okay? Because after Magic hit his hook, he didn't hang there for a while. You should have Magic, because now Jordan got that space, okay? So Athena has taken dominance over Poseidon. They chose her. They chose civilization, which is what she represents, order, rational thought, all that stuff, over the ocean. Okay? Now, the other component of Poseidon being of the sea is that who has a longer memory than the ocean? Nobody. So he remembers this. So now let's go. Let's rewind. Let's get the tape going again. So now we get to the point where, Medusa is now, of course, a priestess of Athena. Okay. So when Poseidon attacks or seduces or whatever, however, I know they like to clean it up. All right. All I know is that there was some sexual contact that happened, and I don't know that Medusa ever gave consent to this. However you tell the story, I don't see consent. I know they try to change it, trying to clean it up, okay, but I'm not sure there was. Be that as it may. Well, I don't want to be that as it may, that part, because that part matters to me. It is. For Medusa, I'm telling you, I'm not be that as it may in that part of the story, okay? I'm not, okay? And I'll come back to that, and we're going to talk about that, okay? But this is how the story is told. A lot of people be that as it may part of it, okay? So it happens, and so again, we have to talk about the rivalry between Poseidon and Athena. This is her temple. And I don't know if you guys understand how these gods get down, but they fought all the time. And what did they fight about? Sacred spaces and territories. That's the main things that gods fought about all the time. Especially like lovers and like play. Like it was mad contentious. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, you know, you went down to my temple and you threw. No, you invaded my sacred temple. All right, that in itself should have sent Athena like right through the roof, right? But it doesn't, right? Okay, if you come into my sacred space, that should be, I got hands for you. Everybody, I don't care who it is. So we're gonna talk about Medusa. We're gonna talk about Athena because we're not done with that part. I'm gonna take that part and I'm gonna put that over here, right? Because we're gonna talk about like the whys of this mechanism. Because we know who she does punish. We never talk about who she doesn't punish, right? And you're supposed to be like this big bad goddess too, right? Okay. But you see, oddly silent on this part. Oddly silent on the violation of your temple, right? Your pyramid. Your temple, your pyramid, right? So let's put the focus back on Medusa where it should be, right? I had to do all that just to get back to talking about the actual most important person here is Medusa, right? You want to tell Medusa's story, okay? So Medusa was also very different. Now it was not unusual for gods and goddesses to be attracted to humans. That happened all the time. The Greeks were always doing that, man. I mean, like for the goddesses, they weren't really picking a lot of guys. Like you probably weren't going to get hit on by a goddess, but you know, for a woman to come home and there's a god already at your house or whatever, that wasn't that uncommon. Like, and they didn't try to date you or anything. Like, we were going in for it right now. You're gonna be so overwhelmed by this that we're going in for it right now. So it's common behavior that they pursued him. That in itself, like again, that is you know, Zeus had like probably 100 millions probably of children. There should be half gods all over the place, right? And I'm sure that there were, and other gods, right? Now Medusa herself is described. It varies, like what she becomes, right? Because she was often described as more terror or death. What was she described as? Let me see. I want to get a description on her. Let me see if I can do this here. What was she described as before she was cursed? What were we to think of Medusa before she was cursed? Are there any passages? So this is going to be the important part. Like, why did he go in there? Because I think there was always something special about Medusa. Now, Medusa is described as being a very beautiful woman, right? And here's the thing, right? Many suitors sought her. This is how they talk about her. Of all her beauties, her hair was the most beautiful. I heard this from one who claimed to have seen her. So she was herself, and this is Ovid who's making this, who talks these specifics about her prior to the corruption, right? So they're tying some things in, that this beauty becomes terror, this attraction is danger, that admiration is paralysis. This is going to be key for kind of understanding what Medusa was. Even before she was seen as tied to this story, she was talked about as being a destabilizing beauty. And this is why this is going to matter. Okay, this is why this is going to matter. She was sought by many suitors. She was a destabilizer. Now, this comment from Fate's Saga, she probably picks up on this, because when I talked about Helen of Troy, I talked about what she was warping reality. She was making people started making bad decisions. Whole kingdoms were influenced into her. They wanted to protect her, or they wanted to possess her. She became a symbol of status, and all these other things. So I talked about how her beauty was not just she fine over there, right? It was a whole different thing, right? There was a divine status to this. And Medusa kind of represented that same thing. She, in this story, is a destabilizer of the order of the temple. She doesn't see, okay, because we understand that Athena is rational. Like, Athena, of all the goddesses, Athena is considered to be very beautiful, right? Like, we don't walk around like Athena was bum, right? Like, we don't say that about Athena, right? We're like, yeah, Athena was considered a very beautiful goddess. Let me see if I have any images of Athena, right? She was a beautiful goddess, and it always struck me as odd that the comparison was, oh yeah, we're going to talk about Athena and Hera, and talk about who's Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite. And we're going to talk about who's the most beautiful. I don't even know why Athena's in this, because Athena is a different thing altogether, right? Yeah, Athena's beautiful, but she's not, like, you notice there's no romantic stories about Athena. Athena's never associated as having a consort, because that in itself would be insulting to Athena, right? Athena is the ultimate rational being. She's like, I'm the part of Zeus that comes from this head, right? We know Zeus is a very complex guy. She's literally that. She busted out of Zeus's head, so she's a representation of higher thinking in its purest form. So the idea of being overwhelmed by beauty is destabilizing for her. This is anti to what she is, right? If that makes sense, right? No one ever talked about, oh man, look at Athena. That's not how Athena was beautiful in the way that we would see a temple as being beautiful, a ship, a shield, or a set of armor, right? She's beautiful in that way. She's beautiful in the way, the architecture of a city. That is how you would express your worship for Athena. If you want it, now that's why Athens was the city. That's why Athens became the source of democracy, became the center of thought. This is what, because Athens was reflecting Athena, okay? This is bureaucracy at the highest level, right? This is order on top of order. That's what she is. She is that kind of beauty, right? She's not the kind of beauty that you're like, yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing after whatever event is going on? That's not who Athena was. And if you did that, she'd probably stab you, right? Like, she'd probably, like, if she acknowledged you, it's not going to be good, right? Or if you become Athena's, if she chooses you, you're in trouble. Right? I'm just telling you, like, there's never a consort story for her, but if there was, I bet it ain't a good story. I'm just going to say that, right? Like, she's incredible at what she does. She's not that girl, right? That's not who Athena is. So when she has this beauty who is Medusa, who is a destabilizing beauty. Medusa's beauty, just like we talked about Helen of Troy, they have orbit, right? They have suitors. They create gravity, right? This is what it is. When I said, like, Helen is like having Shaq out on the block. You gotta two-man this, right? You gotta all eyes on me. Medusa is she was more that in this communal space. So this is where she was at odds with the very deity that she was working for, the one that she was the saint of. She was not in the domain. The way that I said that Helen was within the domain of Aphrodite, Medusa was not within the domain of Athena, because Athena was all this control. She's controlled, she's rational, she's pristine, she's untouched. She is the sacred virgin. The sacred virgin is anti to any ideas about passion and just going for self and shooting your shot. No, you're not shooting your shot over here. I'm the sacred virgin, all right? You don't even look at the sacred virgin like that. So why the hammer comes down hard on Medusa is not simply she thinks like the boys. Although she does. Like, she doesn't just think like the boys. She's rational thought. And to say that the boys are rational thought, to sum them up, that's not it. She wasn't just agreeing with them because, yeah, we're all the guys and we're all rational. No, those guys are consumed by their passions as well, okay? Now, why is she not? Like, come on, man. This is Athena always got static for somebody, right? Like you always got static. You see this image of her because she's always ready to go, right? She's down for that light. So for her to specifically not go at Poseidon, there's a couple of things. Now, because Poseidon coming into your temple after he left, besides he left a violated Medusa, which is the central part. There's probably water all over the place. Probably had water damage, because I'm assuming they use a lot of tile, right? So you had grout, so get water inside your grout. That's where you get water damage from, by the way, guys. Okay, so he was a natural force invading into her space. Maybe this is metaphor for a storm that took place, right? It's very possible that this is a metaphor for this wild, uncontrollable force, which is the ocean, invading Athena's orderly temple, which is probably a place where they conducted business and held meetings. This is what her space is not about a party space, right? In any regard. So the symbolism of this, right, is obviously very powerful, and what this ongoing conflict between them two actually is, right? But if we go back to the central port, now Medusa endures this. Again, this destabilizing beauty. And again, I'm not pointing any fingers at her. I'm simply saying that she was a being that inspired passion, right? Whether she wanted to or not, this is what was going down. This is what everybody was saying about her prior to even this thing happening, right? It's a terrible thing. So after now she gets punished, she gets exiled by by Athena, because again, you are not under the domain of what I represent. You're too hot to work down here, right? Not like you're too pretty, you're too hot, right? You're too destabilizing. You attract too much attention that is not focused on civilization and pristine things and democracy. Not your fault at all. It's just, this is the gravity that was around her. So then she becomes supposedly this, like, now she's so ugly, right? Here's the thing. I don't think even the physical transformation is the wrong thing to focus on her. Because, okay, first of all, they give her hair of snakes. Snakes are not typically associated with evil or turning people into stone. That's not what snakes symbolize. If you've read enough mythology, snakes are simply symbols of intelligence or wisdom or transformation, right? That's what snakes are. So you see someone that has, look, if I see someone with a head full of snakes, I'm running too, okay? Because I got a personal thing, I'm running. But snakes in mythology did not represent monsters that turned you into stone. That's not what they were, okay? So now that she has snakes for hair, that is not symbolic of a monster, right? And she still maintains her gravity. Now, when they talk about Medusa and she turns men to stone, this is where the paradox of the mythology actually gets deep, because they're talking about paralysis of thought. What she's meaning now, they're turned to stone. The men are no longer able to operate. She is not an ugly horror. She is catastrophic attraction. This is where everything really changes, because she is a priestess of a being that was controlled sexuality, sacred feminine power, ritual purity, inaccessible beauty, and wisdom guide behind boundaries. Poseidon violates or whatever, all that flips in her temple. Literally, the turning men into stone is about mythic fixation. And we saw that a lot. We saw the Greeks were talking about fixation and psychosis in a lot of their mythologies. I mean, like Narcissus, right? Think of the Narcissus story. They're talking about obsession. Even like there's several stories about, it's like Apollo and whoever they turned into a tree. I can't remember what, the laurel tree, was it laurel? If I'm getting that mythology mixed up, someone check. I think it's like Apollo and the laurel, and then the Narcissus story where he falls in love. Like the Greeks were always talking about, you better watch out with your obsessions. So this is what Medusa actually represents, right? She is psychological paralysis. That's what her presence is. Whether she means to or not, that's what she is. Men don't just die looking at Medusa. They freeze. Think about the symbolism of this choice. They become stone, rigidity, right? Paralysis, loss of agency, emotional shutdown, right? Obsessed fixation. Now you're always staring. However you were staring at her, right? And I know they like to make all the faces of everybody who saw Medusa as like, that's how you're frozen. Like this. That's probably not how it was. You're probably supposed to like, damn. That's probably what it was, right? The mythologies have flipped. She was never like, oh yeah, we're going to take somebody who's so beautiful and punish her by making her ugly. She always had this attractive beauty. Even after death, her head, her beautiful face, because that's what she was, still held that attractive beauty. Even for the Kraken, you saw Medusa, you were like, whoa, right? That's what Medusa represents. She is obsessive fixation. She is in psychological language. A man sees her and he loses himself, right? And we've seen this. We've seen the theme of overwhelming feminine beauty as a running theme in Greek mythology. Like, we focus a lot of times on what Zeus was doing, right? Because he was, there's Zeus. Oh, he hit that. Oh, he hit that. That's Zeus. We get caught up in all that stuff. But we reduce how much they talked about the power of divine femininity, because it was slaying the whole entire region. Everybody was buying down to it. Women who were overwhelmingly beauty, men start abandoning kingdoms. You start wars over women that are this kind of beauty. You break vows to your homies. You break vows to your friends, right? Your rational thought stops. This is like Helen. Entire civilizations went into chaos because of, look at that. That's how she was. So Helen was, like I said, a smaller orbit, right? She didn't have the orbit. Obviously, here's Aphrodite's orbit, because she was doing this even to gods and cosmic beings. That's what Aphrodite was doing to cosmic beings, the other gods. Okay. On a smaller scale, you have Helen, okay, who was doing it to like countries. And then on a smaller scale, you have Medusa. That's kind of how I would rank them, right? She was seductive gravitational pull. She is a fatal psychic overload. You look at her and you are transformed, right? Let's think about her. When you look at Medusa and her snakes, which is what she's known for, snakes, you ain't never read a story where a snake represented you get turned into snow. You haven't found one yet, right? So let's go back to what like the storytelling has told us about snakes. What do snakes represent? They represent transformation. Snakes represent her forbidden wisdom and like underworld power. Snakes represent sexuality. They are heavily tied to ideas of death and rebirth and hypnotic danger, right? We've all seen that with the cobra, where like, oh, I get caught staring at the snake's eye, hypnotic. All those things are now applicable through symbolism to Medusa, okay? She wasn't just like, yeah, I'm so ugly, like, ugly would make you run, right? I'm telling you, next level ugly will make me run. So she becomes something else. Her beauty itself is now seen as primal and also terrifying. She is not a civilized beauty anymore. She is raw archetype of feminine force. That in itself, we've seen around a bunch of guys, is anti-civilization, right? I grew up, like, I'm Gen X, so I grew up still watching like the Little Rascals, right? Even though I think they were like supposed to represent the, boomers culture, maybe even before boomers, right? When Darla came around, all nuances broke down, right? Alfalfa and Spanky were now like friends, true friends were now mortal enemies, right? Because Darla had entered the scene. We watch stories of Popeye going up against Bluto all the time because olive oil came around. This is divine power of the feminine nature. And when it's too powerful, it will break down civilization. Not because of it itself, but because of the gravitational pull that it has. Because of what the psychic, of what it does inside your brain noodle, right? It breaks it all down. Whereas Athena and Medusa represent two different archetypes, right? They fundamentally do. Athena represents discipline, intelligence, strategic control, civilized order. She's all about civilized order and ultimately male-rooted rationality. Remember, she comes from Zeus's brain. She's the highest, she's the purest level of thought from Zeus, still a man's brain. Whereas Medusa represents primal attraction. She represents instinct, sexuality, right? Emotional chaos. The girl, like, you were going about your business one day and you passed by her working at, whatever restaurant. Now you eat at that restaurant every single day. She disrupted your field, right? She disrupted you stopped, man, I was on my way to work and I saw this girl. I had to holler at her, okay? She disrupted, literally, your brain. Stop thinking about whatever your focus was. Yeah, I got to get up at 8 and catch the train and then I got to, whatever, right? You broke all that right then and there. You wouldn't do that for a lot of other stuff, right? Most other things you would not, you might be like, oh, man, I saw some shoes I want to get. I'm going to stop back over here on the weekend, right? But if it's that, you stop, you break your cycle right then and there. That is what they represent when they are untamed feminine force per Greek mythology, right? The heart overwhelming the mind, giving up the rational thought. Even after she's killed, her beauty remains a symbol of that power. Athena literally has this Gorgon head on her shield. It's hugely symbolic. And it suggests that civilization itself never really destroys that primal power. It weaponizes it. It destroys it. So this is when we start talking about the male gaze, right? I'm telling you guys right now, the male gaze is not out. It's most of the time, it's not a good thing. At least not in the Greek world. When the guys start looking, especially all the guys start looking at you, you never want to be like, it's tons of hot chicks in the Greek, mythological world. Everybody was hot, right? I don't think they let them write about women who were ugly. I don't think that was allowed. But when that male gaze, like, ask what was Odysseus's wife? What was Odysseus's wife's name? Oh man, what was Odysseus's wife? I can't remember what his wife's name was. But ask her what it's like to be the fine chick at the club. And everybody there is trying to get up on you, right? Ask her. Ask her. Like, these dudes are ready to kill her son. Like, they do anything. And that's what the Greeks were telling us about male attention. So Medusa, her story is older than the Greek gods itself. She is not, most of the time, now she's seen as a villain. And imagine that, she's a villain because she was too hot and you guys couldn't act right around her. So this is where they kind of leverage her, and this is where the story has kind of manifested itself. Like, we've taken something, and maybe that's true with the storytelling, that she was such a beauty that we had to transform her into something else to even tolerate her. To even tolerate her ability to destabilize, we have to make her an ugly creature. This is not a fairy tale. And again, now as I get older, I understand what they meant when they said Greek tragedies. I saw Perseus cutting her head off and defeating the Kraken, and I'm like, yeah, get that goddamn Kraken, right? And Medusa wasn't even I didn't even care. I didn't even care that Medusa got her head cut off. But I was like 10 years old at the time, so I've evolved a lot since that. And so now I understand when they say a Greek tragedy, because they're tragic not just for the main, like, usually it's a tragic at least for the main person. But the tragic end of Medusa, it's epic. I think she like the same thing with Helen. Helen's story is also kind of tragic. So that's my thoughts on the Medusa energy. Like, I got something I got to do, but I wanted to give this a good breakdown just to hit up Fade Saga, brilliant name once again, and thank you for putting that fuel. Like, if I can go deeper on Medusa, like, there's some other levels, like the whole psychology of what we're seeing, but this is essentially how I'm framing it. She was a destabilizer, and we saw that effect. And that is why, one, she was this disruptor. And when she disrupted in Medusa's controlled environment, she became a bigger threat. She was actually a bigger threat because in Athena's eyes, she is the thing that civilization is against. You can't be repping civilization when you are yourself a destabilizing force. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll be back later on, and I don't know. I still got another piece I'm going to talk to you guys about, like some emotional representations in gods and in comic book characters. So stay tuned for that, but I'm going to get active right now. Always thanks for stopping in. Thank you, TikTok. I'm about to sign up out of TikTok. Yeah, out.